Welcome to the BOMBAD Cast.
Oh man.
Whoa.
Oh man.
Whoa. We've arrived. God,
Man.
we are ticking along on this countdown, man. We have
man.
okay. So we have come so far, and
Oh
man,
my
have
God.
we come hard and strong, long ropes, all for the ghosts and the Ghostbusters, and
wild.
especially the Wham and Ghostbusters. We love the Ghostbusters.
I never
Women
thought
can ghost bust too, you pig.
I never thought I'd see this, not because I'm a misogynist, but because I just never knew what this movie.
It's not only because you're a misogynist.
Not only no, but in all seriousness, I remember when this movie came out, I remember having no desire to see it. But it was for different reasons. I was in college at the time, and there was
Right.
Star Wars coming out. Like, I didn't have the money just to go to the movie constantly at this point in my life.
Right.
And I was really, trying to be as frugal as I could with what I was doing financially. And I remember when this movie came out, and then the reviews that came out after gave me no desire to see it. So it has been what's here? It's 2024. So it's been 8 years since that movie released. I never
Time is a flat circle, man.
So I want to ask you this. Did you see it when it came out in theaters?
Yes. I went. Me and the old ex-wife, who was not ex at the time. We packed up our then childless asses and went down to the local Cineplex, and we enjoyed us some Ghostbusters 2016. I remember she was very intrigued with it because it was, again, an all women cast.
Yeah.
All woman cast. I remember the controversy was. Honestly, the controversy fueled me at the time.
Yeah.
Like, again, even though I was more religious back at the time, I was more of a progressive religious person.
Yes.
And I just remember being like, oh, that's stupid. I'm going to go see this, like, fuck you. Like, I want to see what this is.
Yeah.
And I remember coming out going, it was good, it was good. It was like very, like, honestly, similarly to how I felt a little bit, like, maybe not as strong as I felt during Rise of Skywalker, whenever I had to give you a call and process things.
Yes.
This one, I was like, okay, hey, it had the guys in it. I wish that it was, I don't know why they couldn't have just done, like, this is just the next crew.
Yeah.
And the passing of the torch and everything. I don't know what you have to do. I was like, why are we doing an alternate universe? So, well, that's fine. And I remember just wishing that, like, it was that passing of the torch. Connected, but also just being like, okay, there's cool elements, there's different things like that, there's cool ghost busting gear, but it kind of just existed. This was like, as the people on Twitter like to say, boy, was this movie ever.
Well, I will say this. I remember watching the trailers and being pretty hyped for it, but it's one of those movies that just kind of came and went. There was no like, you got to see it, because there's a lot of movies that you have those, you got to see it, like Dune, and I'm a Dune fan.
Right.
So maybe it's the difference. But like, there's some movies that you just can't miss in theaters. And I remember thinking, oh, I can certainly miss this one, just because everyone's feedback on it was, don't go see it, or, it's woke or whatever. And I remember that's, like, honest to God, I think it's the first time I heard that actual terminology. That just because women were in it, that means it was going to be bad. And, and to me, this sounds so awful. It is bad for different reasons. And it's not because it's females, because what they did do that people don't really want to acknowledge, these are all SNL all-stars, except for Melissa McCarthy. I don't know if she ever did SNL, but like
she was a frequent guest for a while. She was Sean Spicer for a little bit. I don't know I think that was after this, though. I think this was like that was after, because this is the year that Trump won the election.
Yes, so you're at
also very colors this this movie.
It does. The thing that for me falls flat in this movie, and we'll get into the shortcomings and everything else that makes this movie this movie. I didn't think it was as well written in terms of comedic moments. Now, there were moments that made me laugh out loud, but Jerry said it best. We watched this together last night. For those, this is coming out on Tuesday. Jerry and I watched the film on Sunday for the first time, and I watched this.
Oscars. We watched Ghostbusters Answer the Call. Absolutely.
Oh, I watched this though with a very open mind, like I do everything. I mean, you got to realize I love movies, and I know what it takes to make a movie. I see the work that goes into it.
You respect the craft. You respect like all the work that goes into even a movie that a lot of people are like, I don't really know. If that's a good movie or not.
But there's
it still is man hours and heart and soul.
Of course. And I was going to say, in this discussion, we're going to highlight the good and the bad and everything in between and the things we thought were clever.
Also the very, very, very ugly, slimery, ugly Slimer.
Awful Slimer. Yeah,
Slimer.
I just think it's cool to know that this movie does exist. And I think there's a couple of things that it does well. And, we didn't want this discussion we're going to have to be like a breakdown of every scene. But I guess starting off with Legacy, like we just did, it's not the most well received of the Ghostbuster movies, and for several reasons, I can see why. But for other reasons, I think we should highlight let's maybe do the good first, the things we actually did like when watching this movie. So you being the bigger Ghostbusters fanatic and the person that's more in this universe. What does Jerry Cable like? Like, what is Jerry the Can Junkie like about watching this movie on rewatches?
Right.
Because this is like your fourth and fifth time watching it, right?
Well, if I can, real quick before we kind of dive into that, like just talk about the time when this came out as well.
Please.
They kind of did hype this a ton. They really Dan Aykroyd was out like preaching the gospel of this movie and everything, saying it's like just as good as the originals and stuff like that, which, if you know Dan Aykroyd, he kind of just like, he's a good salesman. Yeah. He's a good salesman who knows a lot of paranormal science technobabble. But I mean, they brought Ecto Cooler back and like it was wide. They had like big stacks of it. Like I remember I bought that as much of that shit as I possibly could. And everything, I was like living in Ecto Cooler in 2016, the summer of 2016, whenever this came out. You had we talked about the soundtracks and everything. They had the soundtrack. I remember like being like, wow, we have the soundtrack out now. That's just like the old ones. And I mean, it was all right. Yeah. For the most part, it had some bangers on there, but just, it felt like, okay, Ghostbusters is back. It feels like it's going to maybe be back again. And, but anyway, then you go see the movie and it's like, whatever. But like, to talk about the things that I do like about this movie, it is funny.
It's funny.
It's very funny. We'll talk about the comedy here in a sec, because we both have thoughts on the comedy. We both agree on where the comedy, why it is good, but it also fails. Yes. But I think we both talked about like, the premise. There are cool things to the premise. There are cool the whole premise of the bad guy being an actual like person who's still living, who is going around leaving devices that's similar to the Ghostbusters technology that enhances paranormal activity. And that's why the Ghostbusters start to like get into business. Of course. This guy's kind of like upping the ante. And that's why we've got these ghosts we've got to catch and things like that. Yeah. The whole thing about him. Yeah. Doing that to charge the ley lines, which again, that was very Dan Aykroyd. That's very paranormal pseudoscience. Which is again in the very heart of Ghostbusters is that is paramount to have that. It's just got, and I mean, the tech was cool. They did it slightly different. Yes. But still, but similar, vaguely similar and things like that. And there's a lot of just I don't know. It's charming in its own way. It is. Right. It's not as charming as the original films and even Afterlife. It doesn't have like that. I don't know if I don't even want to say that it doesn't have heart, because if you look at interviews of Paul Feig, he did put his heart into this, because Paul Feig loves Ghostbusters. But I think that sometimes you bring we all have different interpretations of different things, of different franchises, of the movies we love. And I think for Paul, he was just like, well, we're just going to do a modern comedy.
Exactly.
And that was where they like, not that comedy wasn't the focus of Ghostbusters 2, but when Dan Aykroyd wanted to make Ghostbusters, he was like, what if we made one of those old-timey ghost comedies from the 1950s, but with the modern paranormal science, the parapsychology science that has been found out between now and then, and like make it like kind of marry it to that pseudo reality of pseudoscience.
Sure.
You know? And what you find out when you look into it is he was more just making it because he loves this shit. He loves the paranormal. We've talked about it before. Dan Aykroyd claims to have had run-ins with the Men in Black that we've done an episode on. He like has talked about UFOs. Dan Aykroyd is big into weird.
Yeah.
And also vodka. But anyway, it's just, you know, this film. I'm behind my pulpit right now, Scotty.
You need to be.
I've gone on a big rant. Because there's lots of good. It's just it's kind of in a, hey, remember Ghostbusters package. But anyway, go ahead. Like, what's the good that you got out of this? What is the good that you get out of this?
Three things, and I'll bring them up and talk about each one of them as we go through. First thing, I love that you have certain aspects come into play that I wasn't expecting. Like, I thought they'd be at the firehouse the entire time, like that. No, it's above a Chinese restaurant. That's pretty original. I like that. I think that's really
that feels cool. Ghostbusters. That feels
and it does.
It
does. Inherently feels Ghostbusters. Each character is not a carbon copy of the original characters, or I thought that's what I was going to get into. You get a little bit more unhinged versions of certain characters, but you're watching it and you can tell that there's good energy between the actors and the actresses. But most importantly, like, it is an individual story in that way. You know, you don't have, this is the Egon, you know, this is the Ernie Hudson. Like, they're all very much their own way of characterizing, maybe even scientists. You know, you've got the speculative scientists, you've got the fool-in scientists, you've got the tech scientists, and you've got just the random woman off the street, you know, the streetwise person. So, like, I'm watching this going, okay, that's original in its own right. The story beats, not so much original, but I won't complain about it. The story beats do feel like a Ghostbusters movie in the sense of little, medium, big. You know what I mean? That's just how most of those movies play. Another thing I really liked, overall, I like the introduction of new tech a lot. I like that there's new tech. There's some ways they did not do it well. Some ways they did it really well. Like, for example, they had the ghost trap in one scene, but at the end of the fighting scene where, you know, normally you would be trapping all the ghosts in the fighting scene, they don't trap a single ghost. They're just shocking it and throwing them. So I don't know how I feel about that, because I think it's
actually catch one ghost in that trap in the entire movie. Only
strange.
One.
Just one. So, like, there's some tropes that they don't do. But third, and most of all, and I guess I'm a sucker for this logo character. I think that's something that I've as a kid always really liked the appeal. He's not looking at me, he's looking like in a different direction. The character is nervous in the logo. Moogly, and Moogly is a full-on character at the end of this. And I like how they do it. It feels like to me, and I will say this, when you watch this movie, you know, this is in the era of reboots. For those that don't know, there was a period, I think a lot of people will attest to this. There was a period from like 2013 to like 2017 where they really attempted to reboot everything. Like everything.
Yeah.
Like Ghostbusters. And obviously some were legacy sequels, like Blade Runner 2049. That's one of the best legacy sequels I've ever seen. But like other examples, like The Force Awakens is a reboot of a franchise, you know, as much as it's a continuation, but it's a reintroduction to these things.
But
yeah,
very rebooty as well.
The Fantastic Beasts, coming off the high of Harry
Yeah.
Potter that ended in 2011, that you had a ton of movies that came out in this time that were doing their best to say, hey, we can still be and have fresh ideas. But this movie, for all the things I do like, there is just as many things as I don't like. And they're not the complaints that most cis white males in their, late 20s, early 30s would say. I mean,
Right.
most of
There's
those
the
complaints,
dudes.
yeah, most of those complaints are, well, they're women, and well, like, and look, I that's no place for the Bombad cast. We're not. That is sexist. That is something we take very seriously here. And even if we did have Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth playing like a dumbass male, that's not the point of that character. The point is he is an oblivious person, and the oblivious person ends up being the kind of the big bad at the end, which is, I think kind of cool storytelling. But like I don't want our complaints to come off as, well, it's because of the women in this movie, which is not the case. Most of the best jokes are from these characters because it is well written.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we love, like, and I was talking, like, I love every single comedic actor in this movie. The thing is, like, they did this with Ghostbusters back in the day, did have a lot of comedic actors in it.
Yeah.
But it also had a lot of just like people who were just actors and everything.
Yeah.
And they chalked this thing absolutely wall to wall with SNL alums and just people who were on The Office, just all kinds of people. In fact, there is a deleted scene. I think it's in the extended cut with Kevin from the guy who plays Kevin from The Office. I forgot his name. Big dumb Kevin. I love Kevin.
Yeah.
But he's in the hotel coming down to get ice, and he's like, "Oh man!" At the end, they're like, "Get out of here!" He's like, "Oh man, where's the room?" Oh, it's just like it's just wall to wall with like people who were on sitcoms and all that kind of stuff. Like they just kind of really put the brick on the pedal. And just went full on into like another brick wall of comedy. But again, a lot of jokes land, but it is a lot of jokes.
That's the thing.
A lot of jokes.
This one to me at no point was scary either. At no point. At no point was I even lifted. I wasn't like, oh man, that's creepy. Gozer, and the first one it's creepy.
Right.
The dogs are creepy, the librarian, creepy. And then you got two, right? Vigo is creepy. You've got all these things that are unsettling, and maybe Moogly is a little creepy. Is it Moogly? Did I say it right? Yeah, Moogly.
Yeah.
He's a little creepy, but like there's just some executions that I hate being like, and I'm never gonna say this. It's one thing I will look directly at the camera. You will never catch me saying they should have done, and I'm not gonna say that here. But because it's ultimately art. It is not, you can't watch something and say they should have. That's not how you digest art. I will say what they did and why I didn't like it, but I will never say what should have been done because it's not my place. I did not get hired to write this, and if I was a better writer, maybe I would have been. I mean, like that's, you got to have that mindset when you critique art. What we did get is not something I really liked all that much. I like certain aspects of it. The joke thing you mentioned earlier, and like to give a better example of that, when you watch Ghostbusters 1, the joke of it is that these four characters, really three, because Ernie Hudson, at first.
Ernie's the straight man.
Yes.
When Ernie comes in, he's supposed to be our eyes into this, but he's also like the guy, he's the Michael Bluth. He's got good lines. He's got good lines, but he's like supposed to be like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah. And so you watch this movie, and every single character that has screen time is goofy, is funny, has good lines, but that's where you lose the almost the very rare chemistry that you have with the first two movies, where you've got characters that are funny with the mundane people around them. That's what makes it funny. Even Dana, like main character, female lead, Sigourney Weaver, has funny lines in the first two, but is not inherently the funny character.
is
And
a
that's what
very
makes it
serious person too.
Yes.
Like in there,
Yes.
she's the one going, "Why are you being so silly, Peter Venkman?"
Yes, she is the voice of reason. And
Yes.
in this movie, I, honest to God, I don't think there's a single voice of reason except for maybe the guy that fires Kristen Wiig's character.
I mean, if you talk to like a serious person, like he was very, but even he was like his lines were made like structured as jokes. And everything. We do not do like he was a joke, a caricature of the very high education, like Ivy League people. But I mean, like I think an argument can be made for Kristen Wiig and I'm sorry, Melissa McCarthy's characters.
Yes.
Being at least they are the most straight man, and I use that term just non-gendered. I don't mean it to be straight person, like as they can be, but even they are just like, you know, like, oh my God, I believe ghosts are real. Ghosts are real.
Yes. Which I like.
Right.
But there's certain things that I'm watching this movie and going, okay, yes, this makes sense. Yes, it's its own universe too. I do like that. I think it's cool. Other things
Ghostbusters is a multiverse. It was a multiverse for it's been a multiverse for over 10, 20 years now. So
yeah. And
just so you know, kids.
You highlighted this when we were watching it together. You were saying how this feels more like the cartoon, just personified, where jokes are made by the cartoon characters.
Yeah. The later seasons, am I right? I'm joking. I'm sorry, that's a joke.
Yeah, I really, you know, I couldn't say this though. I couldn't say I was disappointed because I went into it with my hopes kind of subdued after 8 years of hearing nothing but bad shit about this movie. You know, I kind of went in like, yeah, I know I'm not going to be lifted or emotionally drawn into this. My wife, Katie,
you aren't going higher and higher.
She was sitting behind me, you know, and you were watching. And at one point, I believe, oh God, what was the exact scene? She just got up. She's, I can't do it anymore. She's like, I just can't do it anymore.
It was like right before like they go to get the first ghost. So like their Slimer, by the way, is just kind of like a goat demon kind of thing, which is like
get a picture
dragon, a goat demon dragon, which is they just kind of like they kind of went like most of the ghosts are just people with like you can see their skeletons and they have red eyes, and then they have like a demon. The designs. It felt kind of Ghostbusters-y, but it felt like someone like we're trying to just like, oh, here's some ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, it's Ghostbusters. It didn't feel as, and again, they were trying to do their own thing. They were trying to do that. Yeah, there's the guy.
For those that are
like
listening
those of you
to
you're listening. Yeah.
It's a big green, Beelzebub looking dude. And he storms it on an Ozzy Osbourne concert. It's got dinosaur vibes. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not.
It's cool. It's just, it's like, but that's their first fucking ghost. Like the Ghostbusters, like it's
not a ghost. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is and it isn't. It's just like, it's just like, what are we even doing here? Like, this is bonkers.
What reality is this ghost from? I mean, because like we do get monster. There is a definitive monster, you know, in the 1989 Ghostbusters 2, like the monster that's, you know, like a true monster. We're like, I guess it is the same principle. Like this is a monster, not a ghost per se. So like, I don't know. I'm watching.
It straight up looks like a Beelzebub like thing, which is the joke. The whole joke is like we're at a rock show and people think that
the devil.
Like, oh, it's a metal show. Like, oh, the devil. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I just you know, another good thing I will say, because I just looking at the screenshot of that, this certainly is to me the most colorful of the Ghostbusters movies. And as a kid, if I was a kid watching this, I probably would look past all the shitty jokes and just say, man, this is a visually very, very appealing movie. Like it's beautiful. The color is
very
fantastic. Yeah, like really
very colorful,
good.
Very visually appealing. Honestly, it's this movie is like that screenshot again, and look up some screenshots from this movie. Look up the the Ghost at the Rock show and everything like
Yeah.
that sounds like a really good Blink-182 song. But they it's almost like if you took the Scooby-Doo movies from the 2000s and put them in with Ghostbusters, like if you combined them, because the ghosts feel like stuff from those Scooby-Doo movies.
Yeah, me. I agree. It's very zany, you know, and like there's a couple of things too that I feel that should be addressed when it comes to like how, you know, this is the first one since '89. You know what I mean? Like there was a little bit of weight riding on this in the sense of what would a modern day Ghostbusters look like. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the CGI looks pretty damn good. I don't know what company did it, but
dope.
I was watching it going.
Watching the proton streams, that's what I was excited to see in a modern context, was the proton streams and things like that. But yeah, I'm sorry, continue your point.
What I was gonna say though like you have a responsibility to make it relevant for this generation, and visually they certainly did. You know, the movie, a ton of shots in this movie look really good. It's not like you're watching, you know, Madam Web's a great example. All female led. The writing. Did you end up seeing it, Jerry? Did you end up seeing Madam Web?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God.
I was too busy talking to a guy who was with my mom while she was studying spiders in the Amazon right before she died.
Good. So you get it. No, but no, like you have a movie. You have a movie like Madam Web, which promised on so much and was visually even unappealing, like deeply unappealing. So like I'm glad when I watched this movie, I was actually very drawn in. At no point did the visuals ever turn me off. I was very much involved when taking in and digesting this movie, which is a really good thing, right? I mean, like I don't know. I think it's important to say that, like, it does not look bad. Even the ending battle scene, there's just things that make no sense to me. Like, Moogly at the very end of it's like destroying all of New York, and like, the Stay Puft Marshmallow did do some damage, but it was mostly to vehicles, and I guess it's a special effects limitations. But in this one, it's like fucking up buildings that people live in, and like I'm watching this going,
it takes out the entire hotel, and then the hotel very much like the cartoon, everything goes back to the exact same whenever they catch the ghost or they defeat the ghost. But it did a lot of property damage outside of that. Which
I thought was weird. So like, and there was just certain things that I felt like, you know, obviously could have been done better, which I won't really, because I don't really care that much. Like, I love that we can talk about it, but like at the exact time, like this did not occupy that much space in my brain. Like I'll remember watching it, but that's about it. Like in this discussion, obviously it's coming off the heel of just seeing it, but I'm never going to want to rewatch this ever. I just don't.
I mean, you trust me. I thought I was this. I would like. I got it out of just like, I think I want to see it again because this is like the last Ghostbusters they're probably ever going to make.
Boom,
stuff, you know,
right? And that's the scary part, because that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like.
Final. It felt final. It was like, well, I guess that's just done. And they were like, and I was kind of hoping they would make the next one because they set this up. They set big time up for the. So again, spoiler, if you're listening to this, you should have either watched the movie or you just don't give a fuck. But by the end of it, they end up in the firehouse.
Yes, they do.
And everything. They end up in the firehouse. They end up and it's funny because it's like they only had the budget for the bottom area to recreate the where they parked the car and where Janine's desk and Vickman's office were. They couldn't do the upstairs because they had they had their lab, all their equipment, everything where the car should have been parked. So, which is weird. It's a little weird. It's a little like it feels very cheap in a way. It's like, all right, you got this thing, cool. But they set up big time, man, for like that tag at the end. They're all kind of sitting there listening, and Patty, played by Leslie Jones, pulls her headphones off. Is like, you guys ever heard of Zool? or something like that. Like like
Yeah.
she was listening to some like I don't know, like I guess
Our
also what was
recording.
she listening to?
Yeah,
An
I don't even.
EVP? Was she listening to like one of those like number stations
I don't
that
know.
like are randomly out somewhere? No one knows who made them. They just like chant. It's a French woman saying 9, 12, 14, 28, 28, 28, 28, 42, 42. Hike. And then they said Zool or something. Like no one knows what she. It's
Zool?
just, and so they set it up like they're going to do Gozer next, which is like
Yeah.
okay, interesting. I would
Yeah.
love to see that. And it goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. And that's funny because some people.
I would say I am interested to look because there are Answer the Call comics, and then there are comics where they join the Ghostbusters in the other
Original ones?
universe. They're in another universe. So I'd be interested to get those and see how that plays. But
Yeah,
anyway,
there's
what were you
no
gonna say?
way. There's no way we're getting a sequel to this unless they find somewhere to cross universes and Frozen Empire. Like really, and that. There's just no way.
I don't think
You
it
know?
would fit with Frozen Empire. That's the thing.
No.
Like, I mean, and I wouldn't be against like maybe a movie down the road
Sure.
or something like that. Or honestly, it would fit better in a cartoon. Just do a
It would.
cartoon of them
It would.
meeting. Honestly,
Yeah, I
and have all
love
them voice the characters.
I
It's perfect.
love that we watched it together because if I had not watched it with you, it would have been a drag. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love that I could pause and take a second and
Yeah.
just digest.
Like, what
it
the
with
fuck?
someone. Yeah, because there's some scenes too that like were really good, and then there were some that just weren't that good. Like the acting really wasn't ever bad either. That's the thing. I wish
Yeah.
I could make this. I wish I could tell you what the exact thought my brain wants to say, but I have a hard time communicating it because there's so much conflict in me. There's so much I do actually like, genuinely like. Then the other things that I don't know if I dislike it or if I do. It just doesn't work for Ghostbusters because things can work in other movies, but
Right.
sometimes like I don't know. It depends on how it's executed, really.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
One of my big things too, I've always said, and I don't know how much Dan had to actually do with the writing and everything. He's a producer on this.
Yes.
That probably means he provided vodka one day to the set.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean he does that just so people will buy his Crystal Head vodka, which would
Well, and he
please
probably-
Danny, send me a bottle. I want one of those bottles.
I'd imagine though, Jerry,
But-
I imagine that he was the sole reason the other three came back to do their cameo appearances.
Well, and I mean they all of them have cameos except
Yeah.
for unfortunately Harold had passed away in 2014.
Yeah.
They have a bust at the beginning in the college that is of Egon from like the old movie. It's Harold from the first two movies. It looks just like him.
Yeah.
And then you got Bill Murray plays a huge kind of like he plays a background character, kind of a foil, almost like a Walter Peck type, like naysayer to their thing, and gets quickly dispatched. Bill or Dan is a cab driver at the end, and then at the very end, you've got Patty's uncle who owns the hearse they got is Ernie Hudson.
Yeah.
And so, but I think what I was trying to say earlier too about all this is one of the things that I have pinpointed as to why I don't think this has as much of the magic as the other movies do is because it's very much they don't take. Stay with me here. They don't take the paranormal shit as seriously as Dan Aykroyd does and writes it into the thing. It's more like we're doing a movie about ghosts, right? So it's a ghost movie. Whereas in Ghostbusters, it's a ghost movie, but it's got like actual like the Tunguska Blast of 1909, the blah blah blah. Like they're listing actual. By the way, they're listing actual things that are weird happenings.
Yes.
Unsolved weird mysteries,
of course,
from actual histories and go.
And
they talk a little bit about shit like that, but like it felt like more like. Oh, we're doing ghosts, so let's make up a ghost story. We're doing ghosts, and here's a bunch of green gooey slime. Oh, Ghostbusters has slime.
Another thing too, I don't mean to cut you off, but like they tried.
I was gonna rant like that for another 40 minutes.
They tried to make some aspects of it emotional Whereas the only movie that has successfully done that in the Ghostbusters lore to me is, of course, Afterlife, but because it's
Yes.
about
Yeah.
legacy. It's about legacy, and it's also about Harold Ramis, really deeply down, about Egon's
Yeah.
selflessness. Whereas everyone thought Egon was selfish watching,
Right.
Afterlife. You're like, why the hell did he move his family out here? Why did he go
Yeah.
and go crazy? No,
I
he's
can't
doing
wait
it
to talk about that one with you,
yeah,
by
me
the way.
too.
Like
Me too.
all
I'm
the
so excited.
psychology of Egon.
I'm so excited. But like this one you're watching and it's like they called me Ghost Girl and I was beat up in school. And yeah, bullying is not fun, don't get me wrong. But like by the end of it, I think you are supposed to feel some sort of attachment to like being the underdog. And it does that well.
Yeah.
That's what Ghostbusters always do, being an underdog and overcoming circumstances, even when no
Right.
one believes you. But like there was some really weird, almost Marvel level, like you should be emotional right here. You know what I mean? Yeah, like and I'm like,
I know the part you're talking about. I know the part
yeah,
you're talking about, and it's
very
whenever
weird.
I'm trying to think. Abby
Mhm.
and I'm trying to think of the characters' names. But Kristen Wiig and Melissa
Yeah.
McCarthy gets sucked into the vortex at the end
Uh-huh.
because she gets grabbed by the character Rowan. Also, really cool plot point that the
Really
villain
cool
who is
plot
like an alive person trying to bring about the destruction of the world kills himself as part
Yeah.
of his plan to
Cool.
become a ghost to lead the
Yeah.
revolution.
That's brilliant.
Really cool. Was really cool.
Really
And
cool.
then it just kind of was. It was a what are we fucking watching in the last 20 minutes?
Yeah,
of this
the very
movie is what it
and
turned
you know,
into. But the part you're oh sorry, go ahead.
No. I want to hear you're referring to the emotional.
Well, the emotional beat you were talking about is whenever she gets sucked in there, and we got oh man, I'm forgetting everyone's Kristen Wiig's character.
Yeah.
Goes and jumps. I know we're doing a podcast. We should know the names. She jumps into the vortex with a rope around her, and it's got this very like, it's like Tony Stark bringing the nuke in through the portal.
Dude, yes.
Is what it feels like.
Yes.
And it's very
not that.
It's it would be more touching if we didn't have like wall to wall jokes. I mean, there's joke. And even within that scene, it's like, it just doesn't, I don't feel the poignance. Like, this is just like it's again, it feels like it's, and this isn't a knock on the cartoons or anything like that. I love the cartoons. It's just the tones in this movie are so like off the wall, up and down, back and forth, that it didn't hit the way I think they wanted it to hit. Yeah. Which is a shame. Because I think that again, really cool concepts of one of the Ghostbusters jumping into the netherworld to save another Ghostbuster, bring them back. Mm-hmm. I loved that their hair turned white when they got back. I thought that was a really cool, like, I was like, what the hell? That's cool. That's some Ghostbuster shit. But yeah, like you're saying, it's why are we trying to do heartfelt moments here? I mean,
yeah, because the whole movie hasn't had but one of those, and it wasn't even executed well. It was executed for
it's a little jarring. It's a little jarring when it happens. It's like,
oh,
okay.
But like, there is something to be said. Like, at no point is there like a girl power. There's no point is there those moments. There's one thing that maybe jokingly can sit well with me, but like they kill Mowgli by shooting him in the dick. Like, I just like honestly,
I laughed so hard in the theater when they were like, you gotta loosen his grip, and then they shoot him in the crotch, and I was because it's a shock. It's like, oh god, okay, yeah, that's where you wanted us to aim, right? Yeah,
yes.
Again,
but to me but
it's
it kills the inherent charm that the Ghostbusters had, in terms of like, it's clever writing, that's just, and look, being crass, I'm crass all the time, but like, also I'm not
Ghostbusters is crass sometimes too.
Yes, but I'm not a multi-million-dollar movie being crass that people have, and special effects artists now have to render you shooting a ghost in the dick. You know what I mean? And fall into a pit. Yeah,
and then just the fact that he was also like, my ghost balls. Like, why is he even like?
My ghost penis is hurting now.
Oh,
And he like straight
yeah.
up grabs it and he's like, oh, and he gets,
Yeah, it's
and
like
he gets
it's
sucked into the
like
portal.
it's like fucking America's Funniest Home Videos. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it's a
dude.
dad getting hit with a wiffle ball bat is what it looks like.
But look, you know,
And
we've talked
I
about.
don't mean to offend anyone. If you really love this movie, I think there's a
Some
lot
people
to
do.
love about this movie.
I do too.
I think
I
there's
do
a lot,
too.
and listen. This was the first one that allowed a lot of women to cosplay as not that you couldn't cosplay as the other ones, but they gave you actual characters that
Yes.
you could represent you. And I think that is wonderful. And I think that is beautiful. And I think you should still do that. I think it still has a place in the Ghostbusters pantheon. And yes, it is. And we talked about this with Charlie Ashby. It is a franchise. Sorry to say to some people.
Yes.
Like, I think that that's wonderful that it did that, just like the scene in Endgame people complained about with all that they were setting up. What is it? They were setting up was it A-Force or something? Where all the women characters like take the most of the women's heroes take the glove from Peter and like go and like kick the shit out of Thanos for a bit.
See, I
thought
love
that was rad as hell.
That was
I thought that was
awesome.
rad as hell.
Yeah.
And this did that for female Ghostbuster fans, for people who like, and that's needed. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the new movies now have more characters like that.
Yes.
Yes, we've got Callie Spengler, we've got Phoebe, we've got Lucky, and I mean, there's who knows who else is going to be added in this movie? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
There's just it's and there's some ways in which I feel like the new movies do a better job of representation and everything. But anyway,
I can tell you this much. I love that I could watch it with you. I love that we could discuss it today. I don't know, like I said, if I'll ever watch it again, but I can tell you this much. It could have been worse. I'm going to say the George Lucas quote. George Lucas quote. So, well,
could have been worse. May have gone too far in a few places.
Yeah. It's terrific. It does manage to do it. And I hope for the most part, it did keep certain aspects of this franchise alive. So we did have the opportunity to see it, what we ended up getting with Afterlife, which was just a masterpiece in my humble opinion. Actually, let's look at the numbers real quick before we sign off. I have no idea what this movie cost and what the return on it was. Let's see.
Right.
So according to Wikipedia, the budget was 144 million. And I can honestly say certain parts of it do look like a very high budget movie. It's beautiful.
Right.
It is really
a really
well
good
done.
High budget Scooby-Doo film.
Yes.
I don't mean, again, I'm sorry to disparage.
And in terms of return, it's actually not bad. The return was 229 million. So they barely made 100 million back. So barely. So they made like 90 million back. So they got a bit of a return on their investment. So I guess it does work for in some capacity. I think it's good that I'm glad they didn't expand on it any more than just this movie. It sounds bad, but yeah. So according to this, 6 companies did 1,700 visual shots. That's a lot of visual shots.
That's a lot. Yeah.
The soundtrack, real quick. You got the Ghostbusters theme by Walk the Moon. You got a couple of other really good songs that Jerry and I talked about on the actual soundtrack episode. But the one they kind of kick it off with too is the Fall Out Boy version of Ghostbusters I'm Not Afraid. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't know.
I think it's a solid version.
Yeah.
It's fine. So you say you didn't really care for it?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just not great.
It's not. I mean, they tried to just capture that magic, but also what's funny about that soundtrack is you got the Ghostbusters theme redone by like 3 different people.
Yeah.
And then the original Ghostbusters theme is on there as well. And it's like, what are we doing here? That wasn't even on Ghostbusters 2, it's just, it's, I think it's a very solid effort, and a lot of people put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. And so I'm glad it exists. It just, I think, missed the mark for me on what I get out of a Ghostbusters piece of media or film.
Yes,
Like
yes.
it misses the magic that I feel when I'm like playing the game or
It doesn't. It
anything like
doesn't.
that.
It doesn't have an analog feel quite like the other ones do. And we talked about the
It's a little more
technology
high
of
tech. Yeah.
Ghostbusters. Yeah, the technology of Ghostbusters always felt like if you were to turn on a tube amp, like really. And you
Yeah.
grew up with.
Yeah.
You grew up probably with. I mean, we all grew up with VHS players and all like that. There is a mechanical sensation that kids now aren't growing up with, and this movie felt like a little bit of that. It felt a
Mhm.
little. It felt a little out of touch with the grounded reality that this franchise really does offer in terms of lore and of course technology. And like, yeah, there's a couple of scenes I thought were cool. The weapons were cool, but man, overall, it's like this weird. I'm shocked it exists, And I was reading a Paul Feig quote right here. He said, "A movie like this has to at least get to $500 million worldwide, and that's probably low." So he really was. He thought this was going to be the fucking shit. Like he thought
he's pretty
really,
salty from any interview I've seen. He's pretty salty of the reception, unfortunately, and I feel for him. Because that's the thing. I don't think anyone goes out to say like I'm going to make a bad movie. I think studio interaction can mess it up, and sometimes you just don't hit what everyone else thinks. Especially if it's a huge franchise. I mean, there's a lot of expectations that go into that, and should the audience expectations matter a ton? No, but at the same time, if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit, and that's just the nature of that's just how movies work.
And one last thing I will mention. So this is an interesting idea to me. The Kids' Choice Awards, which I don't even know who puts that on anymore, but this movie won favorite.
Still, I think, right?
Okay, I'm not sure. This movie won favorite movie actor Chris Hemsworth, favorite movie actress Melissa McCarthy. So like the reason why I'm saying that is maybe in 10 years from now in 2034 when this movie is like 13 years old, really. I mean, or I'm sorry, more than that, not 13. This movie,
I was gonna say it would be a little more than that. It's almost 15 now, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's 8 years old. It's 8 years old.
8
I know.
old. So 8 years from now, let's just say that 8 years from now, and 2032, this movie may have a fan base. It's like, no, this actually was awesome, and here's why. Much like the prequels, but I think at that point, I don't know if I will feel that way. And maybe it's just part of the generational gap. I mean, maybe kids love this, and we just don't know. Like,
hey, maybe like if again Frozen Empire takes off, they say they've got like an animated film and an animated series that they've been throwing around ideas for. Maybe we get a full-on franchise. We can end up just like, hey, here's Ghostbusters Answer the Call 2.
Exactly.
Maybe it does happen. And Paul Feig can be vindicated because I like Paul Feig. I want him to be vindicated. This one wasn't made for me, buddy. I'm sorry. I wish it was. And again, I own it. And I will throw it on, but it's just not, it's not my cup. It's not my chosen cup of tea.
No,
I'm
and
glad
that's
it
okay.
exists though.
That's okay.
Yeah. Real quick before we wrap up here, like, did you have any jokes that really just like stuck out to you? Because again, this is wall-to-wall jokes. What was your favorite joke out of the millions of jokes that are
there's millions? My favorite.
It's like a joke a minute. It is a joke a minute.
Was Chris Hemsworth's Kevin's character Kevin when he was showing the logos. That shit was funny.
My god,
that was
the hot dog floating above the house. Is
very funny. Like,
I saw a T-shirt like after this movie came out. I saw a T-shirt online that it was the hot dog over the house.
Yeah,
and I was like, I kind of want that.
Yeah,
because that's really funny. I don't know if I want the ghost with the boobs. I think that's a little too on the nose. It was funny, but like, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, Kevin had a lot of really good moments.
I like that a lot. I like how silly that felt.
Yeah,
it feels silly. In like the best way possible. I like I like when you can do modern humor really well,
Yeah.
especially something like that. That made me laugh. I also kind of love some of the absurd parts, like when they're all bickering in the subway, the train's coming,
Yeah.
and I like situational moments where it's intense.
Right.
So yeah, man, we
Well,
spent almost
yeah.
an hour talking this movie. I'm shocked.
Wow.
Really is.
Wow.
This is wild.
We made it. We made it.
We made it.
So I really enjoyed the bit about how the mayor and the Secret Service guys, like the FBI guys, know that they're telling the truth, and we're like thanking them up the wall, like, thank you so much for you guys are really helping us out, we love it. But then as soon as they leave, they're like, but we're gonna have to like really like just kind of like tamp it down because we don't want. And then like they're like, as soon as they leave the room, they're like talking like, oh, these old maids, like they made it all up and stuff, we're gonna have to fake arrest you, your car's been towed, not fake towed, real towed. I thought that dynamic was really funny.
Me too.
I liked, and again, it's really funny, but it's like it's the comedy is like from a Will Ferrell movie. This is like from like Anchorman style humor almost.
It is.
Or Bridesmaids. This is Bridesmaids humor because it's pulpy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, listen, I just shout out to finally seeing Slimer's wife Patricia in this one. I love seeing Patricia.
Let's look at a picture of this.
We just what I mean, those of you who are listening right now, look up Slimer from Ghostbusters 2016 or Answer the Call and Slimer's, or just type in Slimer's girlfriend because she'll pop up. She will pop up.
Oh, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. This is the best name. I had not seen this name. This is the name on the Ghostbusters Wikipedia. It is Lady Slimer.
Lady Slimer. I've seen that. I know. I made up Patricia just now.
I know, but I like Lady Slimer sounds ridiculous.
Lady Slimer sounds like this is like a fucking Marvel movie with Lady Deathstrike or something like that. Like Lady Slimer. No, I just she feels like a Patricia to me. For some reason, I don't know.
She's a squirter. I can tell you that much.
That Scotty just put the image of Lady Slimer with her 1950s haircut, and lots of lipstick and painted nails. And it was a jump scare for me. Honestly, it literally startled me a little bit. I'm not even. It startled me a smidge.
Lady Slimer, man.
Lady Slimer.
And you know what's funny about Lady Slimer is that she's a patron for the BOMBAD cast. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, she is. Lady Slimer. Listen, Lady Slimer is. Do you know what? That's our new bit. Is Lady Slimer? Can you imagine like Can you imagine like I'm gonna call her Patricia? Imagine Patricia going down on Slimer. Is it like that? And just him like look.
No, we gotta do the scene at the end. The absolute Looney Tunes scene where the car goes up. Ready? Watch. You gotta do it. Ready? We're gonna go to the camera. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, they blow up the atomic things that are on top of the car, which I thought was funny. Like it's fun. They just like again assume everything the Ghostbusters have is atomic, which is a funny joke, but it's like not like anyway. They blow up the atomic things. The car blows up, goes into the portal. They come up and do like a woo at the camera. Yeah.
It's something, man.
It is something. And boy, Slimer in full CG. They thought they were doing something. And listen, nothing but love and respect to the probably underpaid workers like in other countries who were like working double time to get this shit out. I hope that I hope you got paid well. I hope you did because you deserve it, and it's not your fault. It's
not your fault, buddy. It's not your fault. I agree.
But we've got half practical, half CG Slimer coming in Frozen Empire, and he looks so crisp. He looks so good. He look very good. He look slimy.
He looks remarkably good. But yeah, man.
Why are you came?
I just want to say that talking about this movie for an hour, I didn't think was possible, and it really wasn't all bad. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. And I guess we could sign out here, Gerry. We got to hype up the next couple of weeks, dude. Next week, really. Man. Thursday,
Quick.
We're talking Ghostbusters. 2009 with our buddy Charlie Ashby, which is actually a very fun discussion. We pre-recorded that one, so you'll watch it debut live. And then next Tuesday, we're talking Ghostbusters Afterlife in a podcast. Jerry and I probably will watch it at some point this weekend. Maybe we'll see. We'll figure that
probably.
out.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, we'll cram it in there. We'll
cram it in
shove
there.
it. We'll shove it just up in there.
And then on 3/21, which is so thrilling, next Thursday, not this Thursday.
Oh my God.
Next Thursday.
I can't
the
believe
movie,
it's next Thursday.
The Ecto countdown had come to an end, which has been
yes,
well over 6 weeks of just consistent stuff. This has been amazing.
My Ghostbusters love and heart has been just full to the brim, and I love it. And we'll have our Bad Batch review coming tomorrow.
Wednesday.
By the time you're listening to this,
Yes.
and I'm gonna go ahead and do a little producing like we like to do on the fly on mic with Scotty here.
All right, here we go.
Scotty, maybe we should give away our digital.
Oh my
codes,
God!
On that, because we're not going to do a live stream this week. We got to give away these digital codes.
Yes.
So we're going to give them away. If you're listening to this podcast, and maybe we'll try to shoot out a tweet as well.
I will set a reminder for that. Keep talking.
We'll set out a tweet. But listen, we're going to give away during our Bad Batch Star Wars The Bad Batch reaction tomorrow, Wednesday. Wednesday, what is the date? This coming Wednesday, the 13th, we will be giving away a digital copy code that is for Ghostbusters 1 and 2. And listen, just so you can watch those and get ready for the wonderful experience that will be Frozen Empire. That is, again, inspired by the cartoons, but it's probably going to feel a little less cartoony than Answer the Call. And listen, again, I know we're throwing a lot of shade, but again, don't shit too much on this movie. It just wasn't our cup of tea. Our cup of tea.
Yep. I think
we'll be here tomorrow for that. So come here and get your copy of Ghostbusters 1 and 2.
Thank you for remembering that.
I almost forgot.
It's awesome. No, we're gonna put.
I was thinking we'll do it this Thursday, but we got a pre-record coming Thursday.
We do. That's okay. All that being said, I love you. I'm glad we could talk this again, as always. We've had a long night of recordings. We have been seriously.
We've been working hard for this.
4 hours. It's been a lot. But anyway, Jerry, you can find us, of course, at the BOMBAD Cast on all social platforms.
That's right.
In the description, we've got our links to our Patreon, all that stuff that you can check out. Of course, I'm at VSkyJero on Twitter. Most social medias, you are at The Canon Junkie, of course, on Twitter and most other social medias as well. This has been wonderful. I'm so glad we could talk about this, and I think we should do you should do a Lady Slimer version of Stay Bombad. Can you do that?
Hey, fuck you.
All right, everyone, get their visual, but close your eyes.
Stay Bombad.